Hello and welcome to the York Creatives Podcast. My name is Ben Porter, and each week you can join me as I chat to someone from York's creative community. This week's guest is Gemma Curry. Gemma is a York-based actress, storyteller and theatre maker. After 15 years' experience in the theatre industry, she started her own professional touring company, Hedgepig Theatre. As her family grew, so did her company, as Hedgepig added a children's company, Hoglets. Over the last 5 years, Hoglets has been running storytelling and theatre workshops for babies, toddlers and primary-aged children, and this year saw the production of their first children's play, The Sleep Pirates. In this episode we discuss how to tell better stories, about diving in and having an open approach to learning new skills, and about whether children get enough exposure to the arts. Gemma, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So you're an actress and you have your own theatre company.
Yes.
Is that something you always wanted to do, or have you tried a few different things before you ended up doing that?
Always wanted to do it. I decided apparently when I was 3.
Okay.
I can actually remember the moment. We were walking around the supermarket, me and my dad, and I said, I'm going to be an actor. And he was like, okay, then fair enough. And I think he thought it was one of those things because the week before I'd wanted to be a lion tamer and a trapeze artist. But I was like, no, I really want to do this. No, I must have been older than 3 if I could talk like that. And then just since then it kind of stuck. And obviously, like every little girl, I wanted to be a film star and this, that and the other till I was about 8. And then my parents took me to Fountains Abbey to see a Shakespeare production called Comedy of Errors by a company called Illyria. And it was 4 people and a wicker basket, and they did the Comedy of Errors, and it was hilarious. And although I didn't really understand what was going on because I hadn't quite grasped Shakespeare by that age, I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do when I grow up. I want to travel around the country with a wicker basket and make people laugh. So yes, since then, it's always what I've wanted to do. So yeah, just fell in love with theatre completely. And now I have Hoglets, which is children's theatre company.
What is it that makes a good story?
Any story can be a good story. It's the way you tell it. So you could tell the most amazing, exciting story in the world, but if you just tell it in a monotone voice, kids don't pick up on that. They pick up on the emphasis. They pick up on the drama in your voice, the things that make them laugh, things like that. So I think it's how you tell a story that makes a good story. So
why do you think some people are better telling stories than other people? Is it just practice, or do you think some people have a sort of natural ability?
I think a lot of it is to do with confidence, because I have a lot of mums and dads come up to me after the class and say, I could never do that. And I'm like, well, why not? Why couldn't you put on silly voices for your kids? They're not going to judge you. Why couldn't you be loud and expressive in, I was going to say in the bedroom then, but that's really the wrong thing to say, isn't it? At story time. So I think confidence is a big part of it.
So tell me about some of the things that you're working on at the moment.
At the moment, we're doing our second full children's play, and it's called Sea Storm in a Teacup. And it's a story that I wrote for my daughter about making friends. And it's a cast of 3, but there's lots of puppetry involved. So there is a mermaid in the story who's going to be portrayed by puppets. So at the moment I am knee-deep in making mermaids. So I've got about 4 on the go at the moment. We're doing that. We did a play earlier in the year called The Sleep Pirates, which is a story I wrote for my son because he doesn't sleep. Rewrote it into a one-woman storytelling show. So I've just finished that, and I'm going to be retouring that on my own in about 2 or 3 weeks again. I run storytelling classes as well as part of Hoglets, so running all the way through the summer because the summer's very nice, it's very busy. So at the moment I'm shattered.
So when you're in those periods when things are quite difficult, what is it that keeps you motivated, keeps you going, keeps you wanting to do this?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I think I get an idea in my head, and it's always in the middle of the night. It's always when I can't sleep. That's a really good idea. I'm going to do that. And I think it's just sheer-blooded minded determination that I'm going to do it. But I love what I do. I really, really, since having children, I've found this love of children's theatre. It's something that I was never really into before. I always thought children's theatre was pantomime, or it was just like a token, or we'll put this on for the kids and it'll be fine. But I think there's so much you can do with children's theatre. I think there's so much you can do, like educationally. Kids can learn so much from it. And when it's good, it's lovely just to see them get drawn in and like absorbed into it. So I think I just really love what I'm doing. And I'm one of these people, I have to be busy. Yeah. I can't just sit there with a cup of tea and watch telly. I can't do it.
Why do you think that is?
I really don't know. I think I've always been this way ever since, even before having kids. When we were doing, because Hoglets is the children's wing of our theatre company Hedgepig. So when we were doing Hedgepig, it was like, we're doing one play, we're planning another, and then I'd be like, yeah, and after that we're going to do this. And Andy, my partner, was like, oh, for God's sake, will you just calm down and stop it, shut up. I was like, yeah, but we could do this in there and this in there.
There's a certain buzz to doing things like that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And I think there's such a high when you're doing it, and then when it's finished, it's just, you have a bit of a crash. So I think I like to just keep going on an even keel, because I do whinge, and I do say, oh, I've got too much work on, oh, I'm too busy, I'm too tired, I can't do this. But when I have nothing to do, I'm so
it's a delicate balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too, when like, you know, take on too many projects. It's always like, oh, I just want to get rid of some of these projects, but only so that I can pick up some more.
Yeah. It's always like, I'm going to have a rest, I'm going to have a few weeks off, I'm going to just sit and do nothing. I don't think I've sat and done nothing since I was about 16. I think it would just drive me around the bend.
Do you have brothers or sisters?
Just me.
Okay, were your parents like that? Were they always doing things?
Yes and no. My mum, yes, but not in a creative sense. My mum is one of these people who can't sit down. So she comes to your house, it's amazing. She'll come to your house and you're like, do you want a cup of tea, Mum? Yeah, I'll make it, and I'll do the dishes while I'm making your cup of tea. And while you're out, I just did your ironing and things like that. It's really, so I think I get that from her. Whereas my dad is the creative one. My dad's very arty, plays the saxophone, writes, but he's massive procrastinator. God, I'm not going to let him listen to this, but massive, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, I've just got to do this first. I've just got to do that first. So I think I've got my work ethic from my mum, the you do not sit still, but the creative side from my dad.
That's a good balance.
Yeah, I think I've got it in the right order. If I'd just got the lazy side that wasn't creative at all, I think I'd be a bit screwed. But I think I got the good half of each of them.
So if we go back to the theatre stuff, do you think children get enough exposure to the arts?
No, not at all. It's a really big bugbear with me, especially with schools cutting arts funding, and well, not the schools, the education department cutting arts funding. I don't think that children get exposed to the arts at all, as much as they should. Well, not as much as they should anyway. And I think it's going to be detrimental in the future, because if they're not exposed to the arts now, where do the artists and the filmmakers and the theatre makers and the writers and the painters and things like that, where do they come from the next generation if they're not exposed to it? And if only people who can afford it can be exposed to it, then it's going to skew the balance a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Arts won't reflect life. So if everything's middle class and upwards, then none of the arts are going to really reflect.
Yeah, well, it's already going that way. There's some research, I've forgotten the exact statistics, but they looked at the number of people in the top 40 who've got degrees compared to like 10, 20 years ago. Yeah. And it's just like more and more people, because I think unless you are going to university and things like that, you don't really have that time where you can work on things like that.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to hold a 40-hour-a-week job, you're not going to have much time to be creative and make other things, particularly if you're still learning.
Yeah, it seems really unfair as well. It's saying only the privileged can enjoy the arts, only the privileged can produce the arts. And it's going to make the arts really stale and really boring if it's all just about, I don't know, high finance and mortgages and, you know, not what real people are about mortgages, but things that, you know...
no one gets together on a Friday night and talks about mortgages.
No,
you want to go to a gig or you want to chat in the pub or you want to hear a story and those kind of things.
So, yeah, it's my real bugbear, and exposing children to the arts is becoming more expensive as well. So I just took my children to the theatre today, and I took two of us, 2 adults, 2 children, and it was like 50 quid to take 2 children to see a 50-minute play, which it was amazing. Don't get me wrong, it really was amazing, but not everyone can afford that. That was
it's a day's work if you're on minimum wage.
Yeah, I got a bonus job that I didn't expect. So I was like, oh, I'll pay for the kids. We'll go and see that. To be honest, I wanted to go and see it myself. But yeah, not everyone can afford that. So that's one thing with Hoglets we're trying to do, is the plays we put on, we're trying to make them really affordable. So with the last play with the Sleep Pirates, I think it was like £2 a ticket. I think the next one's going to be £4 a ticket, because everyone should benefit from theatre. I think theatre's important to all walks of life. Saying that, I'm a bit of a theatre geek, so I would think that, but I think it can do so much for people. It can be very political, it can be just escapism and just take you out of your life if you're having a bad time for 2 hours. And with children, they learn from watching. And I think they can pick up so much from actually being immersed in something, even if they're taken to another world that doesn't exist, but they're still learning. I think it would be a tragedy if kids couldn't see theatre.
Yeah, if you think back to your childhood, are there any particular memorable times when you went to theatre, things that kind of left a lasting impression on you?
Oh, loads. Yeah, like I say, the Aurelia with the wicker basket. My parents took me to a lot, actually. They took me to, because I have family down in Cornwall, so they took me to the Minack Theatre. And we went one night to the Minack. It was see Shakespeare again. There was a massive storm, so there was like waves crashing on the stage, and you could see dolphins jumping in the background, and like the cast had to put wellies on and like these ponchos, and we'd gone to see Much Ado About Nothing, and I just completely would not move. They were like, do you want to go? I was like, no. I think I was about 10. I was like, no, I'm not moving. And I completely fell in love with Much Ado About Nothing, and that's had like a bit of a kick on for the rest of my life, because I call my daughter Beatrice after Beatrice from Much Ado About Nothing, and it's my favourite play ever. So yeah, things like that stick in my mind. And I have so many lovely memories of being in the theatre, making theatre. I used to run plays in our back garden. I'd get all the neighbourhood children round, and one would go and be costumes, they'd be like nicking things out of their parents' drawers and things. One would be makeup, so nicking their parents' makeup and just making us look like clowns, and we'd all get dressed up and we'd have a theme, and then we'd do a little play for all our parents and stuff. I think that's one of my best theatre memories, even though I didn't make any money. I'm saying that I never make any money.
Yeah, saying that, you've actually just reminded me of like when I was little, I always used to be running around with a camera, or either that or playing music shows for my friends. And I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just playing around, just having a laugh. And then it's interesting to think that when I left school, I left to be in a band to try and do that for a career for a few years, and then ended up making films. But nobody really tells you that those things are careers when you're that age.
No, everyone tries to deter you from them. Well, not at that age. You don't know what a career is at that age, do you? But
when you are at the stage asking, I remember I was chatting to my careers teacher at school, and they asked what I wanted to do, and I said I want to be a DJ and a stuntman. And they said like, you should do maths and English. And I was like, what's that got to do with what I want to do? And I think they just don't really, there's no set path for these things, so they can't really advise that well, but they should still be telling you like these do exist. Go and speak to someone who's done it.
Yeah, because someone has to be that DJ or someone has to be that stuntman. And if they keep telling people not to do it, then where we're going to be? We're going to have no music, no books, no films, no theatre, no pictures, no clothes. Well, no stylish clothes. We'll all be walking around in bags. It does. It really annoys me, the attitudes to creative arts. I think it's, it's one of my big bugbears.
Yeah, we won't go any further down that rabbit hole. So how do you find being based in York? What do you think to the creative scene here?
It's great. I love York. I think there's something really exciting about York. It seems everything's bubbling under the surface. There's so many amazing like small theatre companies. There's so many amazing filmmakers. There's so many amazing musicians, and there seems to be a nice community of it. So like we were talking earlier, everyone knows everyone else. Oh, you know so-and-so, I know so-and-so. And it's nice. And there seems to be a really nice supportive feeling in York. I've worked with so many like smaller theatre companies that everyone knows everyone. And there's always so much support, which is nice. There's no backbiting, no bitching. Everyone goes to see each other's plays. Everyone talks about them. Everyone's like, oh, my mate's in a play, go and see it. And I love that. And I think somewhere bigger, in London, it's not like that at all. I've worked in London, and you meet the same people at the same auditions, and it's very hard to make friends in that kind of environment, because at the end of the day, there's one job and there's like a line of 20, 30, 40 girls that all look the same, and you're all vying for that one job so you can eat this week. And so there's no camaraderie in it. There's no good luck. There's no if there is, it's like good luck, and then they're like trying to trip you over.
It's difficult when there's so much pressure.
But in York there doesn't seem to be that. There seems to be an attitude of, if it works for one, it works for all. So if York gets recognised as a good fringe theatre scene, it's good for all the companies in York. If it gets recognised as a good place to film, all the film companies, it seems so much nicer, and it's a bit more laid back and a bit more chilled, and it's beautiful. So it is a good looking city, so you can't knock it.
So what was the last thing that you challenged yourself to do creatively?
Make a mermaid. So I'm currently making 4 different mermaids: a shadow puppet mermaid, a marionette mermaid, which is about 12 inches tall, and I've made marionettes before, so that's not as difficult. But then I need to make a, like, half my body size. I'm quite small, I'm only like 5'2" or something. Half my body size, big moving mermaid puppet.
Okay.
And
where do you start with something like that?
I don't know. That's the problem. I've got the head, and I'm doing a lot of work on the head, and I'm hoping that someone will come along and say, I'll make that body for you. No, it's I think I'm going to have to ask advice. But it's lovely. I'm really, really actually enjoying it, because it's something I never thought I'd be interested in. I was always like, oh, puppets are a bit creepy. And then seeing lots of children's theatre with my own kids, it's like, oh, they're cool. You can do that with that. You can do with that with that. And there's, you can do so much with a puppet that you would need a big budget for to do anything else. So you can have a mermaid without someone dressing as a mermaid and falling flat on the face, or you can have a flying unicorn, or you can have I don't know.
Yeah, it's the beauty of theatre. That your imagination's a limit. And also, as well, you find people who work in theatre often pick up lots of different skills here and there, and then they sort of think, well, I'll just give it a go. There was Amy, who I've had on the podcast before. She now rides a motorbike because she had to learn it for a role, and she thought was never something she wanted to do. But after she tried it, she's like, I quite like this.
That's really cool.
Get myself a motorbike. So what's something you've learned recently that you wish you knew 5 years ago?
Just do things. Just to throw caution to the wind and do it. Even if I don't know how to do it, I'll find a way of doing it and do it. So 5 years ago, I would have been very, I can't do that because. Now I think I've got to the stage where I think, just try it. If it doesn't work, it hasn't worked. You haven't lost anything. You've actually learned from it not working how not to do it. So yeah, if I could go back in time and teach myself anything, it would be just bloody do it.
So tell me what you planned for the future.
The idea of Hoglets always was that it was going to be a children's theatre company. The storytelling that I do alongside it was because you know what it's like being a creative. It's really hard to make a living out of it. So I was being a jobbing actor, but working in a bar, working in a restaurant, working in a bank, things like that. So, and then I had a child, and I thought, I want to do something creative. I don't want to lose that side of me. I love the theatre. I love being a mum. If I'm going to leave her to go back to work, it has to be something pretty special. So that's how the storytelling element came about. So I'd take her to work with me, and it's just grown from there. So 2 days a week I do storytelling with babies and toddlers and drama classes and things like that. So that was kind of an unexpected part of Hoglets, but it seems to have become the main part of Hoglets. So that's like, we say, bread and butter. But the intention always was, when we formed Hedgepig, because we thought, we'll form Hedgepig, we'll do a few plays, we'll have a baby, we'll have a...
What's the difference between the two?
Hedgepig is a lot more adult.
Okay.
Not adult as in, I hate saying it's an adult theatre company, because people are like, porn theatre company? It's like, no, okay. It's a theatre company for grown-ups. The idea was, when we formed Hedgepig, we would, as we as a family grew, so would the Hedgepig family, and Hoglets would be the children's wing. So in the future, more theatre, bigger theatre. So at the moment we're touring the libraries around York and like various other smaller venues. So next year I want to do a regional tour of something. We've got 2 other plays in mind that are a lot bigger scale. And just carry on from there really, and get to the point where I can actually make a living touring children's theatre. In an ideal world, would be lovely.
So have you got any particular dates or anything you want people to know about?
Yes, The Sleep Pirates is returning on the 20th and 21st of August. And Sea Storm in a Teacup will be touring the libraries. I think we have about 7 shows in October half term, so which is the end of October to the start of November, and I don't know the exact dates. That's really bad, isn't it?
Well, if people want to find out more information, where do they go? What's the website?
You can go to the Hoglets website, which is www.hoglets.org.uk, or just Google Hoglets on Facebook and you'll find it there.
Cool. And if people want to get in touch, ask you questions, things like that, are you happy for them to do that?
Yes, of course. Had to think about that then. No, don't talk to me. Yeah, no, of course they can.
Perfect. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.